Hi, welcome to East to West WLS, the podcast where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. I'm April, and I'm the West.
And I'm Jason, and I'm the East.
Today, we have two very special guests joining us, Miss Natalie and Dr. Joe. Hi, guys.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. We want to talk about a very important topic, one that you, Dr. Joe, often bring to our attention, and we're very excited to dive into it today. And the topic is the fear of weight loss surgery. We have all talked to people who are terrified to undergo bariatric surgery for many reasons. It's one of the main reasons Jason and I started East to West to begin with. It's one of the main reasons that Natalie started her amazing Instagram account. It's why Dr. Cribbins does what he does. So before we really dive into this topic, I would love for Natalie and Dr. Joe to introduce themselves to you before we really kind of deep dive into these topics. But I do want to let you guys know this is recorded in Zoom. So we have the audio version for our podcast and we post this to our YouTube channel. And the three of us are gorgeous. But if you have not seen Dr. Joe yet in person, you absolutely need to be watching this on YouTube. I think his nickname is like Hot Doctor or like something that involves hot, GQ Man of the Year. Definitely check out the YouTube version of this and just enjoy all of the glory of Dr. Joe in person. But before we get into Dr. Cribbins, Natalie, will you take a moment and introduce yourself to our friends and followers?
Yeah, so I'm Natalie on Instagram as Breaking Barriers, which is BARI_ERS. It's a little play on words there in the bariatric community. And there I just share my journey. I had VSG done about a year ago. I've lost 130 pounds and I just share it all. I share all of the good, the bad, the in between. And I just share my journey for other people. And yeah, it's fun.
And you are amazing. We met Natalie, I don't know if it's getting close to a year ago, but it was like friends at first sight. She's been helping us on East to West really ever since then. And her story, you guys, is really amazing. She's been through 3 separate bariatric procedures, lived to tell the tale, and is open and honest in every sense of the word. So if you do not know Natalie yet, take the time and get to know Miss Natalie because we love and adore her. All right, Dr. Joe. If people don't know who you are, and I don't know how that could happen because you were just on the cover of West Texas Vogue Bariatric Magazine of the Year. Well, introduce yourself to our friends and followers.
Well, hello, I'm Joe Cribbins, and I'm a weight loss surgeon, and I'm in Dallas, Texas. I've been doing it for about 20 years. So fairly experienced, and I sort of specialize in Davinci bariatric surgery.
What is that, for people who don't know?
The Davinci system is a robotic system that assists us in surgery.
It's pretty futuristic looking, but is it less invasive? Is it kind of the same level, or what is the benefit of using the Davinci system?
Well, there's kind of tons of benefit to it in my mind. I mean, the optics, what you're looking at on the screen is fantastic. It has this really cool 3D vision that really helps during surgery. The movements are extremely precise. The ability to control all the arms and the camera all by yourself is very a cool thing because you only need to think for you and you can move everything yourself instead of keeping track of, oh, well, now you look over here and you lift this thing over here, and you can just sort of like really concentrate on what you're doing. And the instruments that we use in Davinci surgery, very useful because they wrist, and so you can kind of like get around corners, get around angles, things like that. So it's I find it super useful.
Well, and on your Instagram feed, and I think on your website, you have an extensive kind of video library of what surgery is like using your system. And it is very different than the surgery that I experienced. My surgical experience was phenomenal. Excellent surgeon, no issues whatsoever. But to see how you use that system in a way to really, protect and save life and prolong life is pretty amazing. So I highly recommend that people check out what you do. Where can they follow you on Instagram?
One operation changed his life is my Instagram.
And it's very appropriate. And if you guys are watching us on YouTube as well, you'll see that all of our Instagram handles are listed there. So you can go follow us right away. We will also link all of these handles in the show notes, so you have them. And before we kind of dive into our topic today, Dr. Cribbins, will you share with people why you chose to go into bariatric health or bariatric surgery?
Sure. Well, I trained at Northwestern up in Chicago, and 25 years ago, bariatric surgery was not what it was today. It was not particularly popular. There weren't a lot of centers doing it, and so Northwestern just kind of started their program when I was probably like maybe a third year resident or so. And when you're a resident, you get to know the patient when they hit the hospital until they leave the hospital. And so that like kind of their pre-op and their early post-op, and you get to know the operations really well. And back then we were doing open gastric bypasses pretty much exclusively, but you really didn't get to know the patient before or after and down the road. So I came down to Texas and joined my partner, and he was doing some weight loss surgery. And so I kind of just sort of started doing it, kind of helping him out. And then I started having my own patients, and I just kind of like fell into it as a thing that I super enjoyed, I really enjoyed doing the operations. I enjoy having excited patients beforehand. Nobody wants their gallbladder out or their appendix taken out. They're always like, oh, I'm leaving on vacation in 2 days. I don't need my appendix out, that sort of thing. But, just weight loss surgery patients are super excited to have the surgery. And then, down the road, you get to see all these really, really great changes and kind of like, sharing that with them. So it's just something that, me kind of personally, emotionally, just kind of like fit really, really well. And that's how it's kind of continued from there.
And we've really gotten to know you well since we've really kind of started east to west. And we very much appreciate your compassion and your joy for your patients. You really follow them through beginning to end, and you really are in their corner. I mean, and I can't tell you too how many times we've reached out to you because one of our friends or followers has said, oh, I'm having this issue, with my doctor. And we're like, well, we can ask Dr. Joe, and instantly support. I mean, it's just, we don't know how you do it all, but you do it. And that's another reason why we love you. Besides your dashingly handsome looks, you're pretty good at what you do too.
Try my best.
And to speak on to that, when Sarah had her surgery and was having not really the best time, I can't thank Dr. Joe enough, because he messaged me for the next 2 weeks after the fact, trying to figure out where everything was, how it was good. He kept me sane in the hospital, waiting on her to get right, because there was a lot of things I had questions about I wasn't getting answers to, and he sat there right there with me and walked me through it. So I'll forever be grateful for that. So
you're very, very welcome.
Pretty amazing. Well, and that's why it's kind of part of the reason that we have gathered here today as friends and bariatric peers. We know that there is a lot of fear in our community about bariatric surgery, and we want to ask the tough questions and get the straight answers from the doctor himself. So we kind of have some bigger overarching questions that we're going to tackle today. Why are patients scared to have bariatric surgery? What are the risks of not having bariatric surgery? Are there some people who are just not good candidates? How can we help people make a decision that's best for them? Maybe bariatric surgery isn't actually the best decision for them. So we want to kind of dive into that. We are doing this in the time of COVID. So how do people tackle surgery and COVID setbacks? We know that can be a bit of a 1-2 punch. And then if people are scared to have surgery, but they know in their heart of hearts that it's probably the right decision for them, where and how do we recommend people start? So that's kind of the overview of our discussion today. And if you guys are ready, I think we should dive in.
Perfect.
ready.
Let's do it. All right. First questions first. Why are patients scared to have bariatric surgery? What's kind of the number one reasons that you see, Dr. Joe?
Well, there's always a little bit of an unknown with it. Having weight loss surgery, it's such like an exciting thing, but it can be a very scary thing because you really don't know what it's going to be like on the other side. Like I often like to tell patients in the office, because everyone's like super nervous,
Mhm.
couple weeks before. It's like getting a great promotion at work, or it's like having your first kid. You're very, very excited about this thing, but you just don't know what it's going to be like until you're there and you're living it yourself.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that probably holds people back is everyone has a neighbor's cousin. It's so true. I hear these things all the time. My neighbor's cousin's friend, they had weight loss surgery and they had all these troubles and troubles and troubles. And, a lot of times I'm like, I don't even know how that can happen. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, there are complications, but, that's not really the reality of weight loss surgery. So there's still just, there's been so much done to, bring weight loss surgery mainstream, but there's still so many like myths out there and misconceptions that people are scared.
When I told coworkers that I was having bariatric surgery, about 90% of them told me about their neighbor's cousin's brother or sister who had the surgery and it absolutely didn't work for them. And if I really prodded them and I said, well, why didn't it work? They all said, well, they just kept eating crap or they just drank a bunch. And it's like, okay, so it wasn't that the surgery wasn't successful. It's that they didn't actually do the work that the surgery requires to find success. Mm-hmm. And that's a conversation. That's literally why East to West exists, because it's great that you've had the surgery. There's so much work that goes into it that has nothing to do with the surgery, really, that if you don't commit to and do, you are not going to find success. So Jason and Nat, was there a reason that was preventing you from having surgery, or were you scared? Kind of like what was your process that you went through to make the commitment to have bariatric surgery? Nat, I'll start with you and then Jason. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I think for me, it was, I'm such a perfectionist. I like to have control. And it was really that unknown and that fear of, am I going to be as successful as I want to be? Is that want enough to make me successful? And so I think that was the main. I've had 2 other surgeries, that didn't work. Neither times were my fault. They were medical complications. But that still instilled that fear that it wasn't going to work. Like, is my want going to propel me enough to be as successful as I ended up being, but as I wanted to be?
Wow, that is really insightful. I'm kind of aligned with you. I think I just committed to having surgery because a very close friend of mine said I had weight loss surgery and I've had success. And I'd waited 10 years to kind of hear those words. And then once I had that conversation with her, I was like, oh, forget it, I'm done. I very quickly realized after the fact, I did not actually know how to live my life at a healthy weight. That was terrifying, but I encountered that after surgery, not before. Jason, my friend, what about you?
For me, it was really never something that was on my radar. I knew that it was out there. I knew people that did it, and I knew, it wasn't ever really, I was afraid because of success or no success or somebody had complications. For me, it was more along the lines of, I can just do it myself. I'll do it when I'm ready. I'll do it when I'm this. I'll do it when I'm that. I always just had the down the road. And when doctors or somebody would approach me with it, I would just look at them like, well, why would you say such a thing? Like, I'm not, like I don't look like a silverback in a polo sitting in their office. Like I didn't I don't know why you would ask someone like me this question, because let's be honest, I needed, when they're taking your labs and you got more chocolate milk coming out than you do blood, that's a problem. So for me, I got to looking at it like, eventually, once the labs got to a point where even medicine wasn't helping, I started kind of looking, and then I had a couple of blood pressure scares, my crowning achievement of 217 over 179 with a pulse of 52. The doctors were like, hey, how'd you get here? And I'm like, I drove. They're like, what do you mean you drove? And I'm like, in a car. Like, man, like I drove here. And they were just like, how did that happen? Lay down before you fall down. And I was like, okay. And it's just kind of one of those things I got to realizing that one of these times, like, I was okay at that point, but there was going to be a time where I was not going to be okay. And I knew changes had to be made, because once I got to looking at the totality of circumstances and realizing that I was being taken care of way more in my life than I should be at 44 years old, that I needed to make a serious change. And that's when I really started looking into the surgery and realized that there was really no other option for me other than to die pretty shortly, in the very near future.
Well, and I have a hypothesis about this, and it speaks to what you said, Dr. Joe, is that, medical things continue to happen as you live through your obesity, and you just kind of tackle them one thing after the other. And it's like, every time I go to the doctor, oh, something else. But there always seems to be not a treatment, not necessarily a cure, right? And it's like, okay, well, now I'm dealing with pre-diabetes or diabetes or hypertension or heart issues, or right. And there's a solution for that. And you just kind of roll with the punches, but you kind of know what that treatment looks like. With bariatric surgery, you have no idea what the treatment looks like after the surgery. But very deep down, that food is kind of the last thing that you can go to help you feel all right when Rome is burning, so to speak, your personal life. Right. And in the back of your head, you're going, I don't know if I'm ready to give this up yet, because I have nothing else to lean on. That's a scary place for people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. There's such a big mental game, prior to surgery and after surgery. I mean, if you lean on food for different sorts of things, what's it going to be like afterwards? And you're going to need other outlets. You're going to need exercise. You're going to need friends, books, meditation. Something else to replace it down the road.
Yeah, and it's a struggle. Even if you don't fully recognize it before surgery, you're going to recognize it after. And that's something that all three of us have been through. That moment when you realize, oh my God, I was using food for fill in the blank, and now I can't. And that's kind of the moment that you really have to make a decision as a bariatric patient. Am I going to commit to doing the work and living the life as a bariatric patient? Or am I going to kind of go back to my old ways and just live life as I was before? As we often say, you can't live your life after surgery as you did before surgery. Otherwise, you're going to weigh the same, right? It's not going to work. And I think that's another reason that really scares people. It's because you really do have to become a different person. You have to live a different way. Everything changes. And it's a lot when in the back of the mind, you're going, yeah, but there's drugs for that, or I can do this treatment for that, right? You're constantly kind of weighing those outcomes. But that really aligns to our next question, which is, what are the risks of not having bariatric surgery?
Well, certainly there's all the health risks. Being overweight, there's just so many things associated with it. I mean, there's blood pressure, there's diabetes, there's cholesterol, there's strokes, there's heart attacks, there's orthopedic issues, there's blood clots, there's sleep apnea. It's just such a prolific disease, obesity, as it just affects everything of people's life. And like I think we've talked before, for every 100 pounds overweight, give or take, 10 years of life expectancy. And so if you're able to, have surgery and lose that 100 pounds, that gives you 10 years of, extra life. And kind of like you were saying, there's a mental struggle beforehand of, can I give up this thing that comforts me? But at the same time, there's so much quality of life that people enjoy afterwards. And, it's you have to give up some of one thing. And, one of the misconceptions with bariatric surgery is, for the rest of my life, I'll be drinking through a straw. I won't ever really be able to enjoy food. I mean, you could still enjoy foods. You just need to enjoy them differently and healthier, but there's so many things in your quality of life that you get back for this one thing that you're sort of giving up.
It's funny that you say that, because last night I had this conversation with somebody that I hadn't seen since before I had the surgery, because I spent time back home. And the guy looked at me, because when I lived in Oklahoma, all we did, he and another friend of mine, we would cook all these, just anything we could find, these just monster awesome recipes we would find on Facebook or the internet, whatever, and we would recreate them, and we would like grade each other's stuff, so all the time. And he looked at me straight and was like, dude, he's like, you look amazing, but why? He's like, we love food so much. How could you have done what you did? Do you regret doing it? And I was like, you saw me when I was at my heaviest, when I was back home a while back. Look at me now. I was like, does it look like I regret it? And he was like, I mean, no. He goes, but I'm just trying to figure out how you could, like, how you're doing it. And I'm like, don't bother me a bit. Like, I'll still cook as much stuff and it's still the same. It's still just as good. I was like, I just don't eat it.
Yeah.
I was like, I can cook it and give it to 100 people and it doesn't bother me. I was like, I'm good. You know, because he's like, well, tell me the equivalent of like what you can eat now. And I was like, 4 wings if I'm lucky on a good day. If the flats are small, I can do 4 wings and I'm done. And he was like, and you're full. I was like I'm eating the couch cushion that you're sitting on. I was like, I might as well have ate that. That's how full I am. I was like, so trust me. I was like, yeah, but that in his mind, he had a hard time connecting it because I had such a love for not only cooking, but eating the foods that we cooked.
Sure.
And I had to break it down. I was like, no, I get the, you know, the conundrum in your head of how. I was like, but at the same time, he's like, dude, you can see your ankles, your legs look amazing. Like, you're doing like fantastic. And I'm like, yeah, dude. I was like, I got bones and veins in my feet and stuff. It's pretty cool. I was like, I haven't seen those in 30 years. Like, it's pretty awesome. Like, it's, you know, like Ray Charles could take blood from my veins. Like, it's pretty great. I was like, and, you know, that's just stuff that you don't think about. Because I was telling him, I was like, I'm down, you know, 4 hat sizes and I'm down 2.5 shoe sizes. And he was like, I never even would have thought that was weight related. And I was like, oh, but it is. I was like, I didn't either when I was losing it. I was like, but when I had to replace all my hats and shoes, I realized it was a thing.
Well, not to mention your mobility. I mean, you could talk for 3 hours about what you have gained by giving up quantity and just little things. Now I know you had a comment.
Yeah, I just like the quality of life does go into the food though. And that's something that people don't really realize. I mean, we can only eat so much. And I find myself finding more joy in food now because I'm like curating my little bites and I'm curating, you know, making sure that I'm tasting everything and really enjoying it. And I feel like that has given me more power back into the space of food and enjoying the quality instead of the quantity. And, you know, going out with friends, I was just with some bariatric friends over the weekend. We all sat down, we had our delicious meal, we took our leftovers home. It wasn't about the food, but it kind of was at the same time, you know, and it's that balance of enjoying the quality of food, and curating, you know, our perfect little bites, but it's also just curating the quality of our connections and our, you know, gratefulness for that mobility and doing all of these new things. But food really does, the quality and the love for food is still there. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's different in a way that I could have never imagined, right? Before, I didn't enjoy food for its best qualities. I enjoyed food because it filled me up and numbed me out. Now I enjoy food for what it tastes like and for the nutrition that's in it and for the conversations that I can have around it because I'm not obsessed about the quantity. I'm just focusing on those good things. And you just don't know what you're missing out on until you're living on the lighter side of life. And then every day still, and I'm 2 years out, every day I'm going, oh my God, I couldn't do that before. Or I didn't realize that this is so much easier now. I mean, we went for a trip out to the San Juan Islands. I could ride an e-bike and we rode all over those islands. I hiked up a massive flipping hill. I could have never done that when I was at my heavier weight. You just don't know what the weight is stealing from you until you are on the other side of it. And it's very hard to describe to people who are scared to undergo surgery because how do you articulate something that is so personal to everybody? But the only way that we can do it is to share our stories and to connect with doctors that are willing to do the work to help us share our stories, because people need to know that life on the lighter side in many ways is more enjoyable and more rich and more fulfilling. Because if I would have stayed the same, it was a slow march to an early death. My future was filled with doctor's visits, with hospital visits, with very horrible things coming my way. And now at least, I mean, I'm still on the march to death. We all are, but it's a bit of a more joyful, right? I mean, there's just more life there. And I know that the years that I have left will be fuller and richer than they were if I was at my heavier weight. And I can only say that because now I'm on the other side.
Yeah. No, I was going to the doctor three times a month before I had surgery because my primary care physician needed to try to do something for my blood pressure or my thyroid or my whatever it was at the time. So there was a constant battle of meds going on, and she was always taking labs and doing this and, you know, researching and all the stuff. And I think in 2021, I think I've been to her 3 times this year. And every time she sees me, she's like, yeah, we don't really have anything to talk about. So I'll see you later. Like there's really no, I mean, she compliments me on my progress and she talks about it. She's like, you were on death's door. Like you did not have long to go when you were coming to me before. She's like, so I will take this, 7 days a week. She's like, I love this way better because I love not having anything to yell at you about. She's like, so let's keep doing that and I'll see you whenever. And that to me was monumental. And one of the things you were speaking to mobility, the friends that we stayed with when I went back home is the same people that we always stay with, but I haven't stayed there since pre-op. And they have a 20-staircase up to the room that we stay in. And I remember telling everybody pre-op, I was like, look, I come down that shit one time a day. Like I get ready for the day. And if I left it upstairs, it stays upstairs because I'm not going back. Like I'm down, that's it. And I think probably every day I was up and down that staircase 5 times a day. Just if I forgot something, let me go grab it. Just run up the stairs and be good. Like, and I just, to me, it really didn't click until about the 3rd trip up or down the stairs. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, this is so much easier now. I was like, my knees aren't yelling at me. My hips don't want to pop out of socket. Like, this is pretty great.
Works out well every time.
Indeed.
So Dr. Joe, when people message us and say like, oh, I'm scared, I'm thinking about not having surgery, my response is always, have you asked yourself what will happen if you don't have surgery? Is that a good question to pose to people that are, scared?
Yeah, I definitely think that it is. And to have a conversation, with friends and family that coworkers that might have had surgery to kind of maybe get a little bit of, shed a little light on what life is like afterwards, and to have a conversation, with a surgeon. I mean, or even your medical professional, your GP, your internist, family practice person. Like, what's really going on with my health right now? How bad is it? What's the direction of it? What are the long-term implications of the things that are going on with me right now? Even if you're not ready to talk to a surgeon, just talk to your GP or family practice person and get a little bit of a heading on your medical trajectory, and have a real conversation about that.
There's a TV show that I used to enjoy watching. I don't enjoy watching it anymore. And that was My 600-Pound Life. And that show, right, documents people's journey who are over 600 pounds. And, you look at their lives and their quality of life. And, while I don't know if I ever would have gotten to that weight, I was on the track to their health conditions. Yeah. And that was difficult for me to watch, but I think I enjoyed watching that show because I could say to myself, oh, well, I'm not that bad. I don't need the surgery yet because I'm not that bad. But what I was failing to realize is that I actually was that bad. I just wasn't showing it yet. And with more time and with just continuing to live the way that I lived, that was going to be my future. I probably wasn't going to get to 600 pounds, but I was going to get to those medical conditions. And that's just not a place that I wanted to go. Are there people who are just not good candidates for bariatric surgery?
Sure. I mean, who's not a candidate? I mean, you have your standard age ranges for weight loss surgery, which is about 18 to about 65. But you can go below 18. They're doing studies in children down to about 12 years of age. You know, the late teens, bariatric surgery is actually super common, and those patients get tons and tons of benefit from it, both like, you know, medically, and there's a lot of emotional benefits to it when you're younger in the late teens. And then 65, you know, that's on a case-by-case basis. After that, there's lots of people in their, you know, late 60s, early 70s that are great candidates for weight loss surgery. You know, I mean, you have kind of the obvious things. You know, someone's an active alcohol abuser, someone has a drug issue, you know, those things need to be sorted, you know, not to say that if those things were in your past that you're not a candidate, but those people at that time may not be a candidate. You know, very uncommonly, you know, just the medical troubles that are going on with somebody, or their surgical history kind of knocks them out to be a candidate, but that's, you know, fairly uncommon as surgery's gotten safer and safer and safer over the years. And then kind of like you guys been talking about, I mean, the person who's just not ready, you know, I mean, and Jason, you, back when you were like, I was just, you know, why are you talking to me about this? This isn't a thing to me, you know, it's just the person who just hasn't gotten to the point of, you know, they're ready to commit to it, you know, may not be the best candidate.
You know, yeah, go for it, Natalie.
Oh, I just had a question about BMI and that kind of a thing, because I've heard mixed things from different surgeons, both in the US and outside. I'm just curious about weight and BMI requirements as well.
Sure. I mean, there's sort of two realities in weight loss surgery. There's sort of like, there's reality, and in reality, you can go down to a body mass index of 30 in patients, and they can get tons and tons of benefits from it. You know, insurance reality, BMI at 35 with some comorbid conditions, or BMI 40 and over, usually in everybody, those people become insurance candidates. But as the surgeries have gotten safer over the years, the BMI where the surgery is appropriate has gotten kind of lower and lower and lower.
And now I wanted to ask you, what age were you when you had your first bariatric procedure?
I was 15, so that was back in 2009 with the lap band. So obviously had to have my like parental consent and everything like that. But yeah, I was 15.
Yeah. And if your surgery had been successful, have you ever thought about that? What do you think, how would your life have maybe played out differently if that first surgery had been successful?
Yeah, I mean, when you said, Dr. Joe, when you said that the emotional benefit is there, I mean, that is 1000% true. I mean, you, April, Jason, you guys have experienced the mental and the emotional benefits. So imagine being 15, 350 pounds, going to 150 pounds, you know, it's like, wow, like that's a huge difference, you know. Yeah. And you can do things, you can keep up with your classmates, you can, you know, feel more confident about yourself as much as a teenager can, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's all those little things that, yeah, I mean, if I didn't have those severe complications, I have no doubt that like the way that I experienced my teenage years would have been different. I don't know if they would have been better or not, but I feel like I would have more than likely felt more confident and just in my abilities and in myself and autonomy.
And that the stigma of weight loss surgery is what prevents many of us from ever going through with it, or, you know, really delays our decision. I know I waited about 10 years and it was strictly because of that stigma. I thought that I wasn't large enough for weight loss surgery. I thought that it was the last resort. I thought all of those things that we all hear of. And it's rather unfortunate. I don't know if I would have been as successful 10 years ago because, as you have all said, I don't think I was actually ready to do the work. But, you know, I think some of the best advice, if you are scared about bariatric surgery, is just to shift your mindset and just to get curious. because talking with people and talking with surgeons and talking with your doctors is not committing to anything. It's simply gathering information. And the more information that you have, the more informed we can all be about making the decision that's right for us, because this is a very personal decision. But talking to people isn't going to hurt anything or anyone. It's just going to arm you with what you need to move forward in our lives.
Yeah. Well, and you made the one thing you talked about, with my 600-pound life, watching that and saying, well, at least I'm not as bad as those people, when in reality, metabolically, you may be. You don't know what their labs look like. You don't know what your labs look like. I know what my labs look like, and I probably, as much as I said, well, at least I'm not that big, I bet you our labs were pretty similar, because there was a lot of that stuff that were in my labs that I'm sure they found in much heavier people. And there are quote unquote, healthy fat people, healthy people that are of that, that level of obese, that really their labs don't look as bad as somebody that maybe not, that isn't that big, but really isn't as healthy. So really, you have to think about it in more aspects of the visual side of things and say, yeah, I may not be that big, but my insides may be just as bad. And when we're on the quest of metabolic wellness, the best thing you can do is arm yourself with the tools to achieve that goal.
Well said, friend. Well said. So, Dr. Joe, how do you help people make the decision that is best for them? I mean, you are a bariatric surgeon, but you must have this conversation often with people. I mean, how do you walk that fine line between, arming them with the information and not swaying them one way or the other?
Yeah, I mean, most people, when they get to see me, have pretty much made that decision. I mean, oftentimes people have researched it for a year, 2 years, 3 years. They've, talked to friends and families and coworkers, and have done a lot of internet research and gone to a lot of websites and, watched people like you on Instagram and all sorts of things like that before they get to me. So in general, that conversation is at least about having the surgeries is pretty easy get to me. But I do still get like a fair amount of people who just haven't made that decision. Like I had a lady that reached out, earlier today. I'm not sure if this is the thing with me, so I'm not sure if I need an appointment or not. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's a great first step. Just coming to see a surgeon is not making a decision for surgery. It's just having, a conversation about the procedures and their upsides and their risks and their benefits, and it's a decision process. And sometimes that decision process is already made, or sometimes it'll take a few visits, several conversations before people are kind of like settled and they're like, yeah, I think this is the thing for me. Let's just go ahead and start this process.
Okay. Have you ever encountered people, Dr. Joe, when they've committed to surgery and they've kind of done all the pre-surgical stuff and they're, a month or 2 months out, and then you have, you meet with them again or you have a conversation and they say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. How do you kind of navigate that conversation or that interaction with your patients?
Sure. I mean, that's relatively uncommon, although you do have your people who are getting kind of close and they just get cold feet. And even sometimes people get to the hospital and you're talking to them and they're like, okay, today is not my day.
Yeah.
I guess, I guess the best question is, why? What's running through your head? What's kind of holding you back? Is it, a founded fear, or is it an unfounded fear? And to just have that conversation with them. And sometimes, in the end, they're like, listen, I'm right. I just, this is the best thing for me after talking with you again about it. Or, sometimes we come to a conclusion, today's not your day. Today's not, now's not your time. Let's just give it a little bit more time. And when you're ready, come back and see me, because I'll be here.
That's very encouraging. I would imagine for somebody who's really in a crisis to have their surgeon go, I hear you, I understand, I empathize. Let's hold off for a little bit, right? You're not saying forever. You're saying you need some space and that need is valid. Yeah. Let's take it together. That's a really safe place to live as a patient, because that really is just proving once again that you are an advocate for their health and not necessarily for this one specific thing, even though this one specific thing is probably what they need. You're giving them that space and that grace, that human understanding of, okay, you're struggling. Let's work through this together. That's That's very kind.
Exactly. I mean, we try and treat the patient, not the disease, per se,
Yeah. Yes.
the whole person is the person. What's, best for them physically, mentally, medically,
Yeah.
together.
Wow. Awesome.
And that's a huge difference. That's how you can tell that you're truly there for the patient itself, not for the check that you're getting from the patient. Because so many centers do the surgery, push you in the bed, push you down the hallway, cut you open, do what they got to do, cash the check, and then, all right, man, take it easy. Like, have a good time. Have a good rest of your life. Figure it out. Here's a page that tells you how many calories to eat. Take it easy.
Well, it's also so valuable that you personalize yourself also. I mean, I think that's what helped me go through with my surgery. My surgeon personally called me to answer my questions and to ease my fears and concerns. And I think, you're obviously doing the same thing with your patients. And I think just personalizing yourself as a human being and a surgeon is both very comforting and just validating, that, yeah, this is a big deal. It's okay if we wait. It's okay if we have to reschedule, or, it's okay that you're scared right now. That's what patients really do need to hear, because surgery is such this huge, it is a huge deal, but it seems even bigger when you're on the other side of it. And so to have that kind of like personalization and just human, adding that human interaction is so huge. So.
Well, and it sounds kind of weird to say, but we are at an age of human civilization where you can shop for your bariatric surgeon. You literally can interview all of the surgeons that are in a geographic area that's comfortable for you and try them on. You can get to know them and you can make a decision sometimes based on who they are. And I think this is something that as patients, we forget. You are your advocate. You are the client. You are the customer. You need to really look at what is out there for you and make a decision that is best for you based on your needs and your personality. That we can do that now. Yeah. Who knew?
Super true and super important, because, there's such a commitment, not just on the patient side to sort of, do the right thing, make the commitment. There's also a commitment on the surgeon side to kind of like be there for the long haul, with the patient, and to help them through, the good times and the struggles and the stalls and things like that. If you take out somebody's appendix, you meet them in the emergency room, you do a good job, they get better. They might see you months after surgery, and, that commitment's not there. But, weight loss surgery with your surgeon, it's more, it's definitely more of a long-term commitment, more of than a marriage than it is just a speed date. Because, that patient's gonna, they're gonna need support for long-term down the road.
Yeah, forever. You're gonna need support forever.
That's
you
what
just
you meant to say was forever.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Next question, Natalie, was one that you were really excited to kind of dive into. How do people tackle their surgery and COVID setbacks, right? We are recording this during the COVID pandemic, and a lot of surgeries, a lot of procedures, a lot of things are getting shuffled around because of COVID. How do people overcome that? And how can maybe their surgery centers help overcome that?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and it really varies from state to state, from city to city. Here in kind of the North Dallas area, we've been pretty, it's been rough, but we've been pretty blessed as far as the ability to operate through these these 3 ups and downs that we've had so far. But I guess my advice, if your hospital or your center is on pause for right now, is just to keep the faith. It's okay, because this isn't a thing that you do for the short term. A lot of times when people come in and they're like, oh, I've got so many months of criteria before the surgery, and I say, we're not doing this for this year. It is so worth it to wait and jump through those criteria, or wait for your facility to open back up again, because we're doing this for the long-term benefit of it.
Yeah.
Nat, do you have a follow-up question for him, or?
I mean, not really. I mean, my main question was because I'm thinking my cousin is getting surgery. She has it scheduled for the 22nd, but she was talking to me. She said, my center basically said, do you want us to schedule you, with the caveat that we might have to, reschedule. And for her, she just wants that finish line, like, okay, this is the date, and I'm trying to say similar things to what you just said, Dr. Joe, of, like, this is just a blip, in the rest of your life. But for people like her who are so goal oriented, I think it's just been really hard for them to see that goal, that date kind of be swept away. So, how, I guess a follow-up question would just be like, how do you keep the motivation? We have the faith that you'll get the surgery, but how do we continue on, eating this extended pre-op diet that they're all having to go on? How do you keep going? Because it is hard. It's disheartening.
I totally feel for those patients. It can be so difficult because it's such a big thing. It's such a big step. It can be such a scary thing to kind of like make that commitment. And then all of a sudden you're throwing in all of this uncertainty of, well, it may go or it may not go, or we may need to change your date, or you may need to do an extra week of your pre-op diet or something like that. And it may not even happen. So yeah, it's very easy for people to get, discouraged, but I would just say, talk to friends, talk to family, keep up with your surgeon, go back in and see them again and have more conversations with them, because it'll be worth it in the long haul.
And I would really think, moving the goalpost is frustrating. And the pre-op, I was fortunate. I really didn't have a pre-op diet. I don't know how I lucked out with that, but I avoided that hellscape altogether. Thank the Lord on that one. But the first week or two after surgery was difficult. And I too, like Natalie and Jason, we're very goal-oriented people. And to have that goalpost all of a sudden move back another 50 yards after I've already worked so hard to get there, my old addicted brain would be like, well, that's it. Like, none of this matters. And I would throw everything away that I had done. And I would just say, screw it. But really, this is an opportunity for you committing to your bariatric life and just saying, you know what? The work that I did is not wasted. Look at the weight that I've lost. Look how I've shrunk my liver. Look what I've learned about how life is going to be in the long run. And to fight the urge to go back to your old way of thinking, to leave that in the past and to continue to move forward in this new life that you have set for yourself is only going to ensure you will find success after surgery, because the work that you're doing in pre-op is necessary and required for success after. There is just no way around that. And if you've already gotten as far as you have gotten, you are on the path to success. And if you choose to go back to your old way, you're just setting yourself back, I think, even further, because now you've got this negative mindset about it. You're talking negatively about yourself and your upcoming life experience. If you can keep that faith, as you said, and as we've really all just said, like, just focus on the future, don't go back. Yes, it is a setback, but it's only a setback in time. You're still losing weight. You're still accomplishing what you want, what your ultimate goal is. You just don't quite have the tool yet. It's like Amazon, we've all got those emails on Amazon Prime. Oh, your item's delayed. Oh, you're still going to get the item, right? You're going to curse at Amazon. You're going to wonder why the hell they can't do it on time, but then you're still going to just sit there and wait for it. We got to do the same thing when it comes to our COVID delays and our bariatric procedures.
Well, it's funny that we're talking about that too, because I almost delayed my own surgery because when they offered me a date, I was like, man, but I got this and this coming up and I'm not going to be able to eat for this. I got to start this liquid diet on the day that we're having this potluck at work. Like, I almost moved my own damn goalpost. But what I was very fortunate in not doing is I was one of the last surgeries before they started delaying them for the original COVID issue in the first place. So had I had pushed it off, there's no telling when I would have had my surgery, or if I would have had it this time, because I could have talked myself out of it even further, waiting on them to reschedule it. So, just lucky by happenstance, because really I snapped myself out of it when she asked me, because she was like, March 11th, which puts you starting the liquid, because this I went on a Thursday, and she was like, or a Friday, and she was like, so okay, so if we do this, you start your liquid diet on Monday, and I'm like, I was like, oh shit, well, this just got real, like really real, and I wasn't prepared for that today, because I cleared up 3 steps in one day, just because it all happened to fall into line. So for insurance purposes, I mean, I literally was just like, boom, boom, boom. And then they were just like, okay, let's pick a date. I was like, well,
Oh yeah.
okay.
If you have thought that you do not have an addiction, dependence, or tolerance to food, just have your surgeon tell you, oh, and by the way, you're going on your liquid pre-op diet on Monday. You want to talk about an intellectual bitch slap? That'll do it to you. All of a sudden you're going to go, oh, food is very important to me for reasons that probably don't make a lot of sense. Okay.
And I promise you, from the drive from my doctor's office to my house is about a smooth 11 minutes. And in that 11 minutes, I had 3 of the spots I was going to food funeral at over the weekend, because I was already texting people like, hey, we're going hard in the paint all weekend long, because starting Monday, I'm all liquid. So let's get some reservations going, because your boy's got to eat. And I mean, that's literally how, that's where it snapped to me, because in my head sitting in the office, when I was like, maybe I could push it back and do this. And then I thought about it, and I was like, you're an idiot. Like, this is how bad this really has gotten. Like, you really want to prolong the surgery so you can eat more. And I had to just tell him, yep, do it, book it. Like, do it right now, because I knew if I didn't, that I was going to do something stupid, which luckily, like I said, would have gone into the COVID delays, and then I would have been who knows when.
Yeah, I mean, I have a similar story, but mine is like kind of backwards. I called Dr. Ortiz in Mexico, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to get a consultation, and I'm just going to get some paperwork to look over, which did happen. They said, okay, if you want to move forward, you can just call us and put down a deposit. So the next day I called them, and thinking, okay, I'm just going to put down a deposit and they'll give me more information. No, it was like, okay, cool. You put down your deposit. So your extended pre-op diet starts on July 1st. It was like June 29th or June 30th or something. And this is your surgery date. And yeah, so here's all the stuff. And I was like, same thing, Jason. I was like, what can I Postmate right now? Like, this pre-op diet, let me tell you, it was 3 months long. 3 meals a day. 1 protein shake is one of the meals. The other 2 meals were like a hockey puck size of meat, and then the rest was like leafy greens and non-starchy vegetables, and that was it. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I can't do that. I panicked. I ordered McDonald's for breakfast with a Starbucks. Then I had like Thai food, like everything that you could imagine from the Thai restaurant, probably. And then I did it, but it's like, same thing. It was like, okay, well, if I didn't think that I was addicted to food then, like before that day certainly woke me up, from that. And but as far as like the date goes, it's like I did have that uncertainty because COVID was going on, and that was really scary for me to like put a deposit down and not have that certainty. So I think what everyone has said is just to keep your nose to the grind and just know that it'll happen. It just is out of your control, which we as food addicts do not like.
What was your final meal? What was your final meal that you had before your diet?
Oh, it was pad thai with crab rangoons and egg rolls and Diet Coke.
Nice. I had a 22-ounce porterhouse, double mashed potatoes, and cake.
You guys, I mean, I know why you remember it. I did not have a food funeral because literally they were like, just don't eat the day before or the night before. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was like, no Thai food for the next 3 months. And then little did I know, no pad thai for like I still haven't had pad thai because I'm like, there's no way. But yeah, it was like, oh my God, this is my favorite food and I can't have it for the next 3 months. Oh yeah, I'm Postmating it right now.
But just to clear things up, does anybody miss anything food related now that you are post-op? Like, is food more important than how you feel now?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
Hail to the no.
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 Because I can promise you, 4 ounces of steak tastes just as good as 22 ounces, and I don't feel miserable.
Oh, I gotta slow clap that.
Yep.
Because I promise you,
Make
I
the
ate.
chicken and don't get the noodles, and then you have your pad thai, no noodles.
Because I ate every ounce of that 22-ounce steak, and I promise you, I was disgustingly miserable when I was done. I did not feel well at all, and I can do 3 ounces and go to the gym. So I'm a huge fan of that.
Right. All right, friends. Our last question for you, Dr. Joe. If people are scared to have bariatric surgery, but they know deep down that this is the right course of action for them, where do you recommend they start?
Oh, I mean, I think the least threatening conversation that you can have is with somebody that you know that has had weight loss surgery, who's, doing well with it. A family member, a friend, a coworker. I mean, that's where a lot of patients kind of sort of start their journey, is just kind of a casual conversation with that person. Also a super non-threatening thing is reaching out to people like you guys that have walked this mile and are super knowledgeable about it. I mean, ridiculously knowledgeable about it. Just kind of reaching out on Instagram or Facebook or any one of those things, and just having like a little bit of a conversation, and then talking to a surgeon. Like we said before, I mean, just going in for a little consult and meet and greet and some information, it doesn't mean that you're going to get the surgery or that decision's been made. Just get some information, and then we will make an informed decision about the best thing for you.
The really powerful thing about the Instagram community, our community, things that exist now, social media, is that you can reach out to people privately. And if you trust them, you can say, I'm not ready to share this with anybody else, but I do have questions. And I know that you have been through this. Can I have a confidential conversation with you? And just starting off with those words sets that conversation up for success, because everybody knows where everybody's at. Everybody knows that conversation stays private between the two of you. And that's how I made my decision. I had a confidential conversation with Veronica. Everybody knows Veronica is my bariatric angel, but it's because she was willing to have that open and honest conversation with me. I could move beyond the stigmas, beyond the myths, get real information. And then she was one that said, well, just call my surgeon. And I was like, oh, duh, I didn't even think about that. So literally hung up with her, picked up the phone, blah, 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 CHI Franciscan. And I had my appointment within, a week or two. And again, it's not threatening. You don't have to tell anybody. You just go do it for you. And I was not committing to it. I just was committing to gathering more information, because when I saw Veronica go through what she went through and change, I think I DM'd her on Instagram and I was like, girl, what are you doing? Because I need to do that too. And she responded, bariatric surgery. And I think my response to her was shut up, or forget you, or you're hilarious. And then I think it was, what is that? Because who calls it bariatric surgery? Only bariatric patients, right? So when she responded with weight loss surgery, my next response was, isn't that my 600-pound life? And then she was like, bitch, please call me. That was it. End of story. So, right, we have to start with our people, because somebody who has had bariatric surgery. 250,000 people a year undergo this procedure. One person. You do. And actually, 4 people. Well, 3 people, and a surgeon now. So welcome to the club.
And think about how many, messages we get on the East to West page. A lot of times, you would almost think it was a scam type of deal, because there's no profile picture. The name is something weird. And they're just like, hey, can we talk? And you're like, no, creepy. Yeah. And then you realize it's somebody that's that undercover about it, that they don't want anybody to know. That's how deep they've put themselves under covers, because they really don't, they can't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I can't imagine the hell that would be to not have one person that in your daily life that you could reach out to, which is another reason that I'm so thankful that we were able to create what we've created, because people feel comfortable enough to reach out and say, hey, look, I don't have anywhere else to turn. Can you help me? And that's why somebody's always in the inbox, always answering those types of messages, because you don't ever want to miss the opportunity to be, the lighthouse in somebody's storm. And to me, that's the most rewarding thing about this entire situation that we, that we've gone through, and the journey that we've been on.
Every episode, Jason, the lighthouse in somebody's storm. Are you kidding me? Do you have a book that you just read from every day of like inspirational things to say?
It's all in here, man. It all comes from here. The same place that created KFC gravy in a Ziploc bag for tan fat is exactly the same thing that comes out with these wonderful inspirational quotes.
I can't believe it. And Natalie and Dr. Joe, you know how much time I put into research and show notes, and we're conversating about, and then there's just Jason with like, bloop, lighthouse in a storm. Unbelievable. I can't.
You love me and you know it.
Unfortunately.
Something that, because it was hard for me because I was the person that had bariatric surgery.
Oh.
But I was looking for the other person, but it was me the whole time. So I was like, where do I freaking go to find somebody else, And my one of my friends' mom, she had it, but I'm like, she's, in her 50s and it's not the same. And so for me, I was one of those accounts that, I had like a troll account, where I was like, okay, I'm just going to follow all of these bariatric people and just watch and see that it's possible. And I remember following people for years, following them from their pre-op to a year or two out, and them being, so successful and so healthy in their quality of life. And that is what got me to finally say, okay, this is something I can do. So yeah, I mean, the things that we're doing, the things that Dr. Joe is doing to just show that, like, yes, this is possible, is huge. And it's exactly what's needed. And, yeah. So if you have to make one of those little troll accounts, do it. That's totally fine. Message and just, I've started so many messages saying like, please don't say anything. Please don't tag me into anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know, how you are so successful. And that's okay. We're here. We share our journeys to be that other person for you.
100%.
We can't become what we do not see. So fill your eyes and your ears with your heart with people who are living the life that you want to live, and learn how they did it. Learn from them, become friends with them, grow with them. That's how you will get to the place where you're still going to be scared, but you're not going to be terrified. And being scared, I think, is an indicator that you are taking this serious and that that you are not messing around. If you're scared, that's a good thing, because that change is coming, and change is scary. But change is good, and change will prolong your life. Change will bring things into your life that you never knew were possible in the best possible way. But it takes some time to get there. And we're here to say, don't be scared. That's okay.
Yeah, getting out of your comfort zone is the main thing that creates the change that you're going to do. And please do not fall victim to the very small community of YouTube videos that are like, my bariatric debacle and all this stuff, where they're just downplaying all their surgeries and the reasons it didn't work. Because for that very small faction of people out there that are the detractors, I promise you're going to find way more people that were successful. And at the root cause of the detractors is either some very minute error that happened, or it's something that they're doing that didn't get them where they need to be.
Mm-hmm. Bingo.
Complications are a small
Yes.
percent.
Yeah, Dr. Joe, do you know the number? What's like kind of a well-recognized complication rate for bariatric surgery?
Oh, very small. I mean, having a major complication certainly is quite a bit less than 1% these days. It's kind of like having your gallbladder out, maybe your appendix out. It's become super safe as years.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Joe, at the end of the episode, we always love to give our experts kind of the floor. Is there anything that you felt was left unsaid, or is there anything that you'd like to leave our listeners and friends with?
It's just, you guys are so smart. You say
I don't know about that. We have been through it. We are on the other side.
no, but I'm really thankful for you guys kind of being there for the entire community, because you really say very insightful, kind of thoughtful, encouraging things, and it's just it's a super positive influence. So I love talking with you guys.
Well, we love talking to you for lots of reasons, and we very much appreciate the love. Where can they find you, Dr. Joe? So we know that you are on Instagram, and he's got great content on Instagram. His wife is his partner in crime. And Dr. Joe has an office assistant named Marty that is the most adorable four-legged beast you have ever seen on this planet. That's like probably half the reason I follow your Instagram. I have to say it. I follow Marty. I think I interact with Marty more than I do you. I'm sorry. He's adorbs.
He is the star. It's hard to compete with him, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, he's a cute little guy. So yeah, One Operation Changes Life is my Instagram, or Texas Center for Surgery .com is my website, and you can get me either way.
Yep. And Dr. Joe really, truly does mean it. If you have questions, reach out to him on Instagram or send them an email, contact them through their website. He is here to help you through your journey. He's an amazing resource in our community, and we cannot thank you enough for joining us and sharing your time and your expertise with us. Thank you, Dr. Joe.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you.
Jason, my friend, you want to take us out?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, Dr. Joe, we appreciate you always. Everything you've done for us and for the community is just amazing. So thank you again. And Natalie, thank you for joining us. Everybody, thank you all for the support, the follows, the likes, the shares, the reviews, voice messages. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without you guys helping us along. And we appreciate that. You guys support us every bit as much as we ever support you guys. So can't thank you enough. And for those of you who have yet to follow our YouTube channel, you can follow our YouTube channel. It's the same. It'll be East the number 2 West WLS. We're there. You can leave us ratings, reviews on there. And as far as podcast players, we're across the board on that. You can leave us reviews there as well. Anchor, you can leave voice messages, and we can actually incorporate them into future episodes of the podcast. So that's also another fantastic way you can help support us as well. April, what about the Patreon?
Yeah, if you would like to support East to West in a different way, we have a thriving Patreon community. We would welcome your monthly support. Just head to Patreon/East, the number 2 West WLS. We also have a very new and exciting way that we are going to be supporting the community that we will be launching very soon. Check out our Instagram feed. You can become a member of our website for free. Doesn't cost anything, but they will be the first to know when that's happening. Just head to www.east2westwls.com to be in the know.
And just remember, you've got this, we've got you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.